If you are watching this right now feeling like one bad decision could erase everything you worked for, I know that fear. I lived it. Because one night, with my hands locked behind my back and red and blue lights washing over my face, I realized something brutal. Your past achievements do not protect you when the system decides you are done. I was a Navy SEAL, a man trained to operate in chaos to stay calm when bullets fly, and yet there I was, arrested, powerless, treated like any other criminal. That is not a story you expect to hear from someone like me, but it is exactly how this begins. Let me be clear right away. The title is not clickbait. I was arrested, not questioned, not warned, arrested. And in that moment, everything I thought I was collapsed. Reputation, identity, future, gone in seconds. Most people think the dangerous moments in life are loud, explosions, gunfire, combat. They are wrong. The most dangerous moments are silent, sitting in the back of a police car, feeling the engine vibrate through the metal seat, knowing that no amount of toughness can talk you out of cold steel cuffs. That silence forces you to face a question most men avoid their entire lives. Who are you when your title means nothing? I had spent over a decade in elite special operations. I had survived environments where failure meant death, but nothing prepared me for the psychological shock of being arrested as a former SEAL. According to military transition research, former special operators experience higher levels of identity collapse than almost any other profession when their role is stripped away. I did not know that study at the time. I only knew the feeling, fear, shame, and a creeping thought that scared me more than prison. What if this is how it ends? Here is the part most people get wrong. They think the danger is the arrest itself. It is not. The real danger is what comes next. When your mind starts negotiating, when it tells you to play small, to accept the label, to believe the story being written about you, that is how men disappear. Sitting there, I had two options. The first was obvious: fight the system, argue, defend my past, tell them who I used to be. That is the mistake almost everyone makes. They cling to yesterday as if it can save them today. It cannot. The second option was terrifying: let go completely, accept that my old life was over, and choose something radically different before the system chose for me. Here is the small secret most people never hear. Crisis narrows your options, but it also clarifies them. Psychologists who study high stress decision making have found that under extreme pressure, the brain either freezes or simplifies. Freezing destroys you, simplifying saves you. In that police car, I simplified everything down to one question: where can a man with nothing left still rebuild himself? The answer was not America, not courtrooms, not explanations. It was something darker, something harder, something that scared me more than jail: the French Foreign Legion. Most people do not know this, but the Legion exists for men running from something: broken pasts, lost identities, ruined lives. They do not ask who you were. They only care who you are willing to become. That idea gave me hope for the first time since the cuffs clicked shut. But hope is dangerous too, because it can lie to you. I told myself my background would protect me, that my training would make the next step easy. That was wrong. That belief almost killed me later. But in that moment, it kept me breathing. As the car pulled away and the station doors closed behind me, I understood something most people never do until it is too late. Discipline does not matter when life is comfortable. It only matters when you are trapped, labeled, and one decision away from disappearing. That arrest did not just take my freedom, it forced a choice that would send me into the most brutal brotherhood on earth. And at the time, I had no idea that getting arrested was not the worst thing that was going to happen to me. It was the beginning. Freedom sounds simple when you have it. When you do not, it becomes an obsession. After the arrest, every path in front of me led to the same place: paperwork, judgment, slow suffocation. That was the trap. The system does not crush you all at once. It grinds you down until you forget who you were supposed to be. I knew if I stayed inside that machine, I would rot mentally long before anything else happened. That is when the idea of the French Foreign Legion stopped being a fantasy and became a plan. Most people imagine the Legion as a romantic escape, a fresh start, a clean slate. That is the hope. And yes, they do not ask about your past. They do not care about your record, your mistakes, or your former titles. According to Legion doctrine, a man's value is measured only by what he can endure and how well he obeys. On paper, that sounds fair. In reality, it is terrifying. I was walking towards something far more dangerous than a courtroom. Here's the part no one tells you: the Legion is not a loophole, it is a door into controlled suffering. You do not join to be saved, you join to be erased. New name, new number, no guarantees. Men disappear in that system every year, physically and mentally. Researchers who have studied extreme military units note that survival is not correlated with prior elite experience. It is correlated with adaptability. That should have scared me more than it did. I made the mistake almost every former operator makes. I believed my past gave me an edge. I told myself I had already survived hell. That confidence was comforting, but it was also dangerous because the Legion does not care what you survived before. It is designed to break what you think makes you special. The moment I stepped into their process, hope evaporated and fear took its place. Endless waiting, no information, no timelines. You are watched constantly and told nothing. Psychologists call this uncertainty stress. It is one of the fastest ways to destabilize a person's sense of control. The Legion uses it on purpose. Men around me cracked quickly. Some tried to dominate, some tried to impress, some tried to hide. All of them failed in the same way. They fought the system. That was the lesson I learned early, and it saved me later. You cannot beat an institution built to outlast you. You can only surrender intelligently. The small trick that actually works in places like this is humility. Not fake humility, real humility. The willingness to become a student again. Legion trainers are not looking for heroes. They are looking for obedience under pressure. According to military behavioral studies, units with the highest survival rates are not made of the strongest individuals, but of those who suppress ego fastest. Every instinct in me wanted to stand out, to prove myself, to lead. That instinct had to die. Physically, the selection was brutal. Endless runs, pack marches that punished every joint, sleep deprivation that made time feel unreal. But physical pain was predictable. Mental pain was not. Being yelled at in a language you barely understand. Being punished without explanation. Watching men disappear overnight without a word. Fear lived in small moments. A glance from an instructor. A name called. A door closing behind someone else. Hope came just as quietly, making it through another day, earning nothing more than the right to continue. This is where most people break. They think the solution is to push harder, to prove more. That is the mistake. The Legion does not reward force, it rewards compliance. There was one moment that burned this into my brain. A recruit stronger than me collapsed emotionally. Not physically, emotionally. He could not accept being treated like nothing. His body was capable, his ego was not. Researchers who study elite attrition consistently find that identity attachment, not weakness, is the primary failure point. I watched that truth play out in real time. Each day I stayed, my past mattered less. My name mattered less. That scared me, but it also freed me. The Legion was stripping me down to something raw. I told myself one thing every night: do not try to win, just do not quit. I thought surviving selection would be the hardest part. I was wrong. Surviving training was where the real danger waited. By the time training truly began, I no longer felt like myself. That was the point. The French Foreign Legion does not train you the way most militaries do. It dismantles you first. Your routines, your reactions, your sense of time, all of it is stripped away until you are operating on something more primitive. According to military psychologists who have studied identity erosion in elite units, the fastest way to create obedience is to remove predictability. The Legion perfected that long before science put words to it. I thought I understood suffering. I was wrong. The danger in Legion training is not that it hurts. Pain is manageable. The danger is that it never makes sense. You are punished without explanation. You are pushed after already being exhausted. You are corrected for things you did not know you were doing wrong. That uncertainty eats at your mind. Men do not quit because their legs fail. They quit because their brains can no longer reconcile effort with outcome. Every day started before it should have and ended later than it needed to. Sleep became a rumor. Food was fuel, not relief. Time collapsed into repetitions of movement and commands shouted in broken fragments of French. I had trained in environments where clarity mattered. Here, confusion was the weapon. I made another mistake early on. I tried to apply my old systems, mental checklists, leadership habits, efficiency models. That works in special operations where autonomy is valued. In the Legion, it makes you a target. Researchers who analyze hierarchical training systems have found that initiative is punished during early indoctrination phases because it disrupts uniformity. I learned that lesson the hard way. Fear showed up when I least expected it, not during the longest runs or the heaviest loads, but in moments of stillness, standing at attention for hours while your body screams and your thoughts spiral. You start bargaining with yourself. Just survive today. Just survive the next minute. That is where people break. Hope came in strange forms, not encouragement, not praise, silence. Being ignored meant you had not failed. In a system like this, invisibility is survival. The biggest error men made was resisting the psychological grind. They tried to assert control, they asked questions, they explained themselves. That never ends well. The Legion does not negotiate, it observes. Here's the small secret that actually works. You stop asking why, you focus only on what. What is the next movement? What is the next command? What is required right now? Neuroscience research on stress performance shows that narrowing focus to immediate, concrete actions reduces panic and preserves cognitive function. I did not know the science then. I only knew it kept me sane. There was a moment that changed everything for me. I was beyond exhaustion, my body running on something deeper than energy. An instructor locked eyes with me after a mistake. No yelling, no correction, just a look that said, "You are deciding something right now. Stay or disappear." I thought of the arrest, the silence of the police car, the feeling of being reduced to nothing, and I realized something important. This pain had a direction. It was leading somewhere. The other pain had no purpose. That realization flipped a switch. From that point on, I stopped comparing this to my past. I stopped measuring myself against who I used to be. I became a beginner again. That humility was not weakness, it was armor. According to studies on elite adaptation, individuals who detach from previous status recover faster under extreme training stress. I lived that truth daily. Every time my ego tried to speak, I shut it down. Every time my body said stop, I checked whether it was actually broken or just uncomfortable. Most of the time, it was the second. The Legion taught me a different version of the 40% rule. In the SEALs, it means you are capable of far more than you think. Here, it meant something else. It meant knowing when to endure and when to disappear into the system. Survival was not about dominance, it was about precision. Men vanished, sometimes overnight. No explanation, no ceremony. One day they were there, the next day their bunk was empty. That uncertainty kept fear alive, but it also sharpened focus. By the time training ended, I was no longer the man who had been arrested. That man would not have survived this place. I thought the hardest part was behind me. That belief almost got me killed because training is controlled suffering. Deployment is chaos. Deployment strips away the illusion that training prepared you for everything. Training is scripted suffering. Deployment is improvisation under threat. The first time we moved out, the air felt different, quieter, not calm, just heavy. Anyone who has been there knows that feeling. Your body senses danger before your mind can explain it. Here's the truth most people never hear. Combat is not constant chaos. It is long stretches of boredom punctured by moments where everything tries to kill you at once. That contrast is what breaks people. According to combat stress researchers, most fatal mistakes happen not during peak action, but immediately after it, when the mind relaxes too early. I carried that warning with me every step. The Legion does not deploy you with comfort or explanation. You go where you are sent. You do not ask questions. You trust the man next to you because you have no other option. That trust is hope, not the soft kind, the kind built from shared suffering. Brotherhood is not friendship. It is mutual dependence. Fear arrived quietly, in sounds that did not belong, footsteps where there should be none, a shift in the crowd, a silence that lasted a second too long. My SEAL background helped here, but it also betrayed me. I was used to clear objectives and clean rules of engagement. This was different. This was messy, ambiguous, politically fragile. That uncertainty is deadly. The mistake many men make in these environments is relying on aggression. They think force solves uncertainty. It does not. It exposes you. Combat analysts have found that overconfidence increases casualty risk more than hesitation. I saw that firsthand. One patrol still lives in my head. Nothing dramatic at first. Heat, dust, locals watching us without expression. My instincts screamed that something was wrong, but nothing obvious presented itself. That is where danger hides, in normality. The small trick that saved me was slowing down internally, not physically, mentally. Instead of scanning for threats, I scanned for patterns breaking. Who was too calm? Who moved when we stopped? Neuroscience research shows that trained operators rely on pattern recognition under stress rather than conscious analysis. I trusted that process. And then it happened. Chaos, shouting, movement, the kind of moment where time compresses and expands at the same time. Training takes over or it does not. There is no middle ground. What saved me was not strength. It was restraint. A decision not to push forward when instinct told me to dominate the situation. I held position, watched, waited. A second later, the threat revealed itself. Not where we expected, not how we expected. Men who reacted emotionally moved first. One went down, not dead, but close. That moment burned a lesson into me that no classroom ever could. Courage without awareness is just speed toward disaster. Hope showed up again after the dust settled. Not relief, focus, the realization that we had survived because we stayed disciplined. The Legion reinforces this brutally. After action is immediate. No sympathy, no ego protection, just facts. What worked, what failed, who nearly died, and why. The biggest danger after contact is thinking you earned safety. That is when death catches up. Studies on combat fatigue show that vigilance drops sharply after high-stress events. I fought that instinct every time. I reminded myself that survival does not reset. The Legion teaches you to move on quickly, too quickly sometimes. You bury fear because there is no space for it. That is both a strength and a cost. You learn to function while carrying it. Night operations were worse. Darkness erases confidence. Sound becomes unreliable. Your imagination fills gaps your eyes cannot. Fear thrives there. The only solution is trust, in training, in the man next to you, in your ability to stay calm when your heart rate spikes. There was no glory in this, no speeches, no music swelling, just exhaustion layered on alertness, layered on responsibility. According to military psychology studies, prolonged exposure to this state rewires how the brain processes threat. You become quieter, sharper, less emotional. I thought surviving deployment meant I had beaten death. That belief was another mistake, because death does not always announce itself with gunfire. Sometimes it waits for one small decision. The moment that nearly killed me did not feel dramatic. There was no warning soundtrack in my head, no slow motion clarity. It felt ordinary, and that is what made it lethal. Ordinary is where attention dies. We had been operating for days with minimal rest, the kind of fatigue that does not make you sleepy, but dull. According to neuroscience research on sustained operations, this is the most dangerous state a human can be in. Your reaction time slows, but your confidence does not. You feel capable while becoming careless. That gap is where death lives. Fear was not loud that day. It was distant, manageable. I remember thinking we had handled worse. That thought alone should have scared me. Experience can save you, but it can also lie to you. The situation unfolded fast and slow at the same time. Movement ahead, a shift in the environment that did not match the rhythm of everything else. My body noticed it before my mind labeled it. Heart rate up, vision narrowing. This is where men either rush forward or freeze. The mistake most people make in moments like this is trusting instinct without verification. Instinct is powerful, but under exhaustion, it becomes impulsive. Combat researchers have found that fatal errors often come from acting too quickly on incomplete information. I was one step away from doing exactly that. Here is the small thing that saved me. I paused, not physically, mentally, a fraction of a second where I did not move forward, did not speak, did not signal. I let the pattern complete itself. That pause felt wrong. Every part of my training screamed to act, to assert control, to move, but something deeper told me to wait. That hesitation revealed the truth. The threat was not in front of us. It was off angle, hidden, waiting for movement. The men who moved first drew attention. The environment erupted, noise, confusion, a split second where everything fractured. Someone went down hard, another missed death by inches. I felt the shockwave of how close it had been. What saved me was not bravery, it was discipline under fear. Neuroscientists who study elite performers under life-threatening stress have discovered that survival often depends on micro decisions made below conscious thought, not grand heroics. Tiny choices, when to breathe, when to wait, when not to move. I remember thinking afterward how easily that moment could have erased me. One step, one word, one signal too early. The margin was nothing. Hope did not come immediately. First came the realization. I had not escaped death because I was special. I escaped because I respected the moment, because I did not rush to prove anything. That humility saved my life. The emotional aftermath was heavier than the event itself. Your mind replays alternatives. If I had moved, if I had spoken, if I had trusted my ego instead of my training. That kind of replay can eat a man alive if he lets it. The Legion does not give you space to process. You pack it away and move on. That is both protection and poison. Studies on trauma exposure show that unprocessed near-death experiences sharpen performance short-term, but demand payment later. At the time, all I cared about was staying alive. There was a quiet understanding among us afterward. No words, no celebration, just a deeper awareness of how thin the line really is. Brotherhood tightens in those moments, not from shared victory, but shared proximity to the end. The lesson burned itself into me. Survival is not about intensity, it is about accuracy. Knowing when not to act is harder than acting. Most people never train that skill. They confuse movement with progress, noise with effectiveness. That day changed how I saw everything. My arrest, my training, my choices. I realized that my life had been saved not by escaping danger, but by respecting it. I thought that moment was the end of the story. That surviving death meant I had earned something permanent. I was wrong. Surviving changes you, but it does not free you. That came later. Surviving does not feel like victory. Not at first. It feels like weight, like carrying something invisible that only gets heavier when things go quiet. When the danger fades, your mind finally has space to speak, and that is when the real reckoning begins. After that near death moment, I understood something I had avoided for a long time. I had not just survived arrest, training, and combat. I had survived two deaths already. The first was the day I was arrested, and everything I thought defined me was stripped away. The second was the day I realized how easily I could have disappeared without a sound. The man who stood after that was not the same man who had entered any of those situations. Fear changed shape. It no longer screamed. It whispered. It asked harder questions. What happens when this ends? Who are you without pressure forcing you forward? According to long-term studies on elite military veterans, the most dangerous period is not during service, but after intense environments end. Structure vanishes. Purpose blurs. Men drift. I felt that pull, the temptation to let survival become the peak of the story, to define myself by what I endured instead of what I chose next. That is the mistake I see everywhere. People think making it through something hard means the work is done. It is not. Endurance only buys you the opportunity to decide again. The Legion taught me discipline without comfort. Combat taught me restraint without hesitation. But the arrest taught me the most important lesson of all. No system is coming to save you. Not institutions, not titles, not past achievements. When things collapse, all you have is the framework inside your own head. Researchers who study post-traumatic growth have found that the people who rebuild strongest are not the most motivated. They are the most structured. Motivation fades. Structure remains. That is why I stopped trying to inspire myself. I stopped chasing feelings. I focused on systems, daily discipline, clear standards, honest self-assessment. Not dramatic, not glamorous, effective. I am often asked if I regret the arrest. That question misses the point. Regret assumes the past could have stayed comfortable. It could not. That moment forced a reckoning I had postponed for years. It killed a version of me that would not have survived the next chapter of life. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people do not fail because life hits them too hard. They fail because they refuse to adapt when it does. They cling to identity instead of building capability. They wait for confidence instead of acting without it. The small secret that actually changes everything is boring. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking how you feel. You decide what needs to be done, and you do it regardless of emotion. Behavioral psychologists consistently find that action precedes confidence, not the other way around. I lived that reality. I am not here to tell you that suffering makes you stronger. That is a lie people use to romanticize pain. Suffering only reveals what is already there. Discipline turns it into something useful. When I look back now, the through line is clear. Every time I tried to protect my ego, I suffered more. Every time I surrendered it, I survived. That applies far beyond the military, careers, relationships, personal collapse. The principles do not change. The man who was arrested thought strength meant control. The man who survived learned strength is clarity under pressure, knowing what matters, knowing what does not, acting accordingly. Some men die once and never realize it. Others die twice and come back sharper, more focused, less distracted by noise. If you are watching this feeling trapped by a mistake, a label, or a moment that feels final, understand this. The ending is not decided by what happened to you. It is decided by what you build after. I am not here to motivate you. Motivation fades. I am here to tell you this. You do not need a second chance. You need a system that does not collapse when everything else does. That is how I survived, and that is how I live now.